What is up with it? We are here for the pre-show analyst desk, and I'm here with
Juggle Guy. What's up, guys?
And Nintendo.
So it's been a long and exciting weekend at Super Smash Con. We've already closed out on 2 events with some awesome top 8s yesterday. So starting off with Brawl, we're going to recap the results. So to not so big of a surprise, Vinny actually took the whole event. He won over V115, a highly touted player from Canada, and Mewtwo King was unfortunate to not be able to defend his title this year.
Who did Mewtwo King lose to in Brawl?
He lost to V115 in winners, and then he had an early run-in with Ally in losers.
So this year is actually a pretty stacked bracket. So if you look at the names, those are the names that you saw last year, or like overall in the course of Brawl's history. These are a lot of the players that contended very strongly at majors. So
it's completely different from last year Brawl.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the fundamental difference was besides just being more stacked.
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot more stacked. And
People took it more seriously as an actual event this year, as opposed to last year. It's kind of like, honestly, kind of regarded as a side event.
Definitely. Like you saw players like Anti and the top players practice regularly, so they definitely took it a lot seriously. And I think when you don't play for a while, you kind of miss the game, and they want to like have fun with it, but also like compete really hard. So it was definitely interesting. You guys should check out the VODs. It was a pretty solid play all around. And then we're gonna move on to Smash 64 results, which Nintendo can tell us and fill us in with.
Yes, this is really interesting. This was by far the most stacked 64 tournament of all time.
Biggest one of all time, right?
Yeah.
In terms of turnout?
Yeah, and also in terms of international attendance. We had Peru versus Japan for the first time ever in the game's history. But what you might notice about this top 8 results is there's no one from Peru in it. Alvin got knocked out early by, he lost to Prince in losers. And he lost to Karaba in winners. 2 Japanese Yoshis.
How many 64 events have the Peruvians come to in the United States before this?
I think this is the first one.
With all the Peru heavy hitters?
Well, it was really only Alvin.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
only Alvin came from Peru.
Sure.
But we had some new Japanese players on U.S. soil for the first time. Karaba and Prince. Karaba made top 8, which is very impressive. I actually hadn't seen him play before. We also had Bono, who I believe went out at 9th. We had a lot of Yoshi Dittos. Wizzy was able to beat both Karaba and Prince in Yoshi Dittos. And then he made it all the way to winners finals and eventually grands after beating Isaiah in a very interesting set. Where we saw Isaiah whip out, I think, 4 different characters.
Isaiah just wants to have fun. Like Smash 64 is too fun for him to just go Pikachu all weekend,
exactly.
like you said, right? On social media.
Yeah.
Like that's what he initially wanted to do or said he was going to do.
Okay. Yeah, and also, I don't know if you watched Isaiah versus Super Boom Fan in winter semis, but that was another interesting one where Isaiah...
What was the character matchup game to game?
So
it changed completely.
Yeah, Isaiah started out with his Pikachu versus Boom's Falcon, and Isaiah won pretty handily.
Yeah.
And then, for some reason, ended up playing a DK Ditto. I suspect that since Boom was losing, he asked Isaiah, do you want a DK Ditto, hoping that his chances would be better.
And Isaiah agreed to it, of course.
Isaiah ended up winning the DK Ditto. And then we saw Boom try to counterpick Isaiah's DK with Yoshi, and Isaiah tried with 3 different characters that were not Pikachu to beat Boom's Yoshi and failed and ended up getting reverse 3-0'd.
Do you ever think Isaiah just wants to play more matches in losers, so he just kind of rolls with it in winter semis?
That's a realistic possibility. I don't think anyone really knows what goes on in his head when it comes to character selection. In fact, I always wonder what goes on in his head when he's moving his cursor around the character select screen from character to character.
Is he listening to the audience?
Yeah, he's listening to the audience.
Is he like doing some formula in his head?
Is he actually debating like with some inner conflict, like which character should he go? I really don't know. Also, with these top 8 results, I think that the Z getting 5th is actually a pretty big breakout performance. Z is someone that I would have pegged at probably getting 7th at most. The Z's from Canada, by the way.
Yeah, as a casual 64 fan, what can you tell us about the Z? Like, what's his background? What are his previous results?
So, yeah, the Z usually plays Fox and Pikachu. He's from Montreal, Canada. He's always up there in, like, 7th, 9th at the big tournaments, but for him to get 5th at a tournament this big is amazing. I actually don't recall off the top of my head what his head-to-head results are against other players, but I do believe he's like always lost to Wizzy and Boom and those guys.
Were these the results that you were expecting following the 64 scene? Where Japan, people were telling me that Japan was really good. They didn't send their best players, but did you think that North America was going to take most of the top spots here?
I did not. I expected Alvin to make top 8 personally. I also expected Wizzy to get 5th or 7th. So for him to get 2nd is extremely impressive.
This kid just plays every game amazingly.
Yeah.
It's like
it kind of brings an interesting question, which may have some food for thought. Is Wizzy relatively better at 64 or in Melee, where he's a top 15 player?
Kind of insane to think about.
Yeah, I think
the fact that we're even asking that question.
After this tournament, Wizzy might be a better 64 player than a Melee player.
Yeah. Wow.
That's pretty insane. So congrats to Super Boom Fan for defending his title at Super Smash Con. Wii U had a lot of interesting results yesterday. I'm not sure if CEO this year or SmashCon this year had more upsets because we're going to show the winners bracket later, but it looks nothing to what you expected would be based on the attendees who entered. You guys saw the Muti King set on day 1, right?
I did.
So very unfortunate, but understandable that he juggles multiple games, so it's really hard to do. Few small slip-ups as Cloud, and he ends up saying, like, you know what?
Double eliminated.
I probably don't have too much of a chance to get really far being in losers that early. I'm going to focus on other games, which I can totally understand. But what do you guys think about the other upsets, given that some of these people have won majors and they're in losers really early?
It's just shocking to me that we can sit here and look at 6WX over Ally, Dave versus Zero, versus like 6 months ago when Zero was at the end of his dominating run, and we couldn't really, if you told us back then this screen would happen with all these upsets, that's kind of insane. I don't know what to think.
Anything to add, Nintendo?
I don't know. I disagree with Rob. It's really insane. The game has a lot of upset potential, so I think it makes it really exciting to watch as a spectator.
Seems like every other national has more and more upsets.
And I think that's the interesting thing because there's so many characters that are viable in this game that if you it's kind of like when you play a trading card game like Magic or Pokemon and you train up against all these decks, but there's a deck that is off meta that you just don't know how to prepare for. And there was a little bit of drama. Zero's wanted Lucario practice, but I think he was denied it. And he had to run into Lucario, and he got Aura Spirit at 40% and got killed. So, matchup knowledge is so important in this game, and it's so hard to cover your whole spread, where you could just randomly run into a character you have no idea how to play. So we're going to go on to the winners bracket, considering that these players, aren't in winners right now. We do have some household names here. Nairo, a little bit on a cold slump, is in winners top 8. Void, from CLG, has actually an opportunity to make a name for himself. And Mr. R, I think Mr. R suffers from the 2015 Hungrybox effect, where he's so consistent, but he doesn't win events. But this guy always, is in the top of the brackets. He's always in the top 3 or top 4. So I'm always impressed by consistency, given how complex and how diverse the meta is for him to, consistently not win, but be able to play so well.
It's funny, I saw a joke that people call Mr. R Mr. Second Place, because he always gets second and he never actually wins.
Ooh. He is the Hungry Box then.
He literally is the Hungry Box.
The last year Hungry Box.
The lesser Hungry Box.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting because I know that for a fact that Nairo was very disappointed in some of his recent performances. So he can make a pretty good run here. I'm not sure what his experience level with Sonic is, which is what 6WX plays, but I think if he can get through that and most likely play Void, like he could be in winners finals for this event. The other players, they're no slouch. I mean, to get this far in an event, you have to be good. There's some luck, but like you have to be good here. So given how day 1 and day 2 have gone, I don't really know who to really pick, and you always have to look at who's going to go on a hot streak here. Momentum is going to be so important, and if we look at the losers bracket, it's going to be interesting because we're going to wonder here, like, who can make that legendary mango type of run. If we can go to the next slide.
And I mean, those don't happen often in Wii U when you could lose a couple stocks and you're down 1-0, and then same thing, you're out of the tournament right away.
Yeah. So Ally, like, he can make a name for himself. People argue that he is, debatably number 1 in 2016, but he's going to have to make a long run here to win this event. And I looked at a tweet, and there were like 4 top players that this is a little hard to see, and my apologies, but there are 4 top players that are going to get 13th between the 4 of them based on how the brackets play out. And so it's going to be a tough road ahead. Zero and Ally on a crash course if they win out, and one of them is going to get 13th place. Maybe they even get 17th if they lose early.
Rich Brown DeBuzz.
You know what I find cool about this losers bracket is if you include that the most recent 2GG tournament, every match has someone who got top 3 at a huge tournament recently. Like Zenodo, second as CEO. Mars and Pinkfresh were in the finals of that 2GG tournament. Of course, we know Ally and Zero. Abadongo, 1 pound. DeBuzz has been, a master of consistency in this game, placing top 3 at almost every event. And Anti has done quite remarkably as well.
Now, you guys are the TOs of the event. I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but do you know offhand when 3 out of 5 starts for this bracket?
It's all of top 24 in singles.
Okay, so this will give them a little bit more leeway to adapt. And so hopefully, that's going to be the name of the game because everybody comes with a unique style. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of them, studied videos and footage, but it's going to be really interesting to see how these play out because all these players can make huge upsets. And that's been kind of the nature of Smash 4 for the past few months is that anybody can win. Although, you see some familiar names at the top, but like you also see a lot of names get 17th or 25th or 33rd.
Seems like everybody has a random 17th or 25th on their resume these days.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of expect them to buckle down a little bit more because of the best of 5, and just because in losers bracket, they're kind of their life is on the line.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be able to focus a little bit more, knowing that they have an extra game in their pocket potentially.
Yeah. And I think the big thing here is counterpicking. More of the players are picking up secondaries because there's no way like your one character is going to be good against like 25 other characters. So we're going to see a lot of counterpicking in the game 5 and a lot of experimenting with matchups, similar to what we saw with like Isaiah in a Lust trolley way. Like I feel like match to match, there's going to be a lot of character changes. So I'm pretty excited. Unfortunately, I'm going to be preoccupied during the top 24 phase, but I will be tuning in for Wii U top 8 to see who wins. So we're going to move on to Melee, which is pretty interesting. A little less upsets, and this is because the game's been out longer, so it's no.
Fewer upsets, but they are very meaningful.
Definitely. And Mafia, I'm going to start off with Mafia mainly because not only did he beat Mike Hayes from an amazing comeback against him, but he looked like a top player against Axe in that set. What do you guys think about did you guys watch the set? Did you guys get to see it?
Yeah, I did watch the set. Mafia is a player that I think has been very under the radar for a long time, kind of isolated in the Boston area.
New England in general.
With
a lot of them are
they don't have
on
majors until Shine coming up in a couple of weeks. But this was his chance in the spotlight, and he stepped up to the plate big time. It did have a little bit of help from Axe SD a couple times with bad up Bs, but even with that, Mafia's able to keep it close and outplay him in a lot of situations.
And so it's kind of interesting because we were seeing certain regions like pop up in talent. Your old region, MDVA, the second tier players are making a lot of statements at tournaments. And so I'm not going to be surprised in a year if New England becomes like a top 3, top 4 region, and you start making leaps because their players are rising every event, and I'm more and more impressed with their gameplay. And of course, a lot of people, thought PPU wasn't going to have a good year after his first 3 to 4 months. Poor Pound, poor Gommel. We were like, has PPU kind of plateaued?
Yeah.
And he's making statements here. What do you guys seen in the past?
That
few
was
months?
the conversation for the longest time. I mean, I love PPU, but everybody kind of thought, he's getting 9th place, he's getting 13th, 9th again. When is he actually going to get top 8? It never happens. And finally at Evo, he breaks out, and I think he might have gotten out of his plateau. He might have unplateaued a little bit. Because for a while, let's be honest, he was that guy who he could get there, but not into the top 8. And he's finally doing it now. Evo's not a fluke. He beat M2K. I think all these upsets, honestly, are things where if somebody comes to me, I'm saying 10 to 1 odds at least for all 3 of them, and including PPU, who even though he's perennially top 15 player, maybe top 20 slipped down this year, I would never pick him over M2K. I'd give it 10 to 1 odds easily.
It's funny. Prior to Evo, I'll give PPU fans so much crap by saying that he should be seeded 12th or 13th at majors.
This is why we gave Calvin crap when he said PPU's making top 8 at Evo. It's like, no, this we've been through this before.
Prior to Evo, PPU is probably honestly 24th or 25th.
If you're just looking at this year.
Just looking at results this year.
Actually, that's crazy.
But he's shown us that he still is that top 15 player at this point who can pull off big upsets at big tournaments. And, I mean, he can very easily make top 8 here, too.
I think the story of PPU's year is that he had to juggle school, and then on summer started, he got to play with SFAT, Armada, and I think that practice and the discipline he's had over the month has really shown in results. So, I'm not going to say BG King played his best, but PPU made the most out of his opportunities, and that's equally important to point out when the underdog wins. We can point out that the top player made mistakes, but then we also have to say that the underdog was in the position to capitalize on it, and that's equally important in Melee.
And a lot of times the top player is playing bad partly because the underdog is stepping it up and putting pressure on them. So it's not like a mutually exclusive thing. I think you always have to look at both in the same context.
Definitely. And, last one, it's kind of interesting because I think it's been kind of the summary of West Balls this year. He has his ups, he has his downs. ESAM did defeat him in winners. I don't think that was streamed at all, so.
Unfortunately not.
But I don't, that's the tough thing about being a stream runner. You don't know when these upsets are going to happen. It's kind of funny because we've been joking around saying maybe ESAM's actually a Melee player, given that his Smash 4 results.
He's doing better in Melee. For how many straight majors? It's been 3 or 4.
We don't talk about Evo.
Yeah, except for Evo.
Okay.
We don't talk about Evo. He may have had the biggest rise between 2 majors where
sure.
I think he got 257th at Evo.
Yeah.
And he was 1 hit from beating Kobol too. Kobol, really good against Samus.
Yep.
So ESAM's doing really well for himself. These were upsets that other than maybe ESAM West Balls, I would have not really seen the other 2 at all. But we got to see an interesting winners bracket as a result. So we get a very familiar rematch where Mango and Wizzy do kind of play quite often at majors.
They do these days. Wizzy's making it to Mango now. He's not dropping out a round or 2 before Mango.
And so it's pretty interesting overall. Wizzy, shown a lot of grit. Made it to top 2 at Smash 64 yesterday. He took Mango to Game 5, at What the Fox 2, I believe. And so, if Mango's off, Wizzy can just pull momentum and take this. It's going to be really interesting.
I think Mango just starts as Falco, straight up, doesn't even mess around with Fox.
Well, the interesting thing here is that if you win 1 match, you get a 2-hour break. So whatever he feels like he needs to do just to get past his match, it does not matter what the rest of the bracket is because he doesn't need to play 5 sets in a row where he has to switch Fox, Falco, Fox, Falco.
It's not necessarily a factor in his mind, in his character selection versus Wizzy, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And fortunately, QFAT, they're not playing for 8th place or 9th place in losers. They're both in winners right now.
Definitely don't feel as bad seeing the NorCal matchup in winners compared to somebody's heart's going to get broken in 9th place in losers if they meet up, Shroom versus PPU at Evo. So lot of exciting things with that matchup. They've played so many times. I think SVAT has had the recent edge, but they're homies. They know each other's playing style. And when they've played so much, when two people have played so much, I think the combos and the follow-ups look more confident, and as a result, the stream, or the spectatorship, kind of the value increases a little bit in that specific area. Because you're seeing follow-ups that you normally would not see if two people are feeling each other out, they haven't played much.
Yeah, and that's the matchup familiarity. Do you have anything that you want to add to the top half of the winners?
Not particularly. For those of you wondering why PFAT are playing at winners, PP wasn't supposed to make it this far because it was supposed to be Mewtwo King versus SSBM.
According to go back to pre-Evo PPU.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you get this far, you can't really complain about seeding. Speaking of regions, NorCal's Big Three did show up this event. All three of them are winners quarterfinals here. But out of the top half of A and B, who do you think is going to make it out to winners finals?
I'm going to take Mango and SVAT.
I mean, to winners finals, so winning 2 matches.
The whole thing.
Or just the very top 4, like who's going to make it out of the top 4? It's an interesting question because...
Yeah, because SVAT beat Mango last week, just in Texas. I'm going to take Mango, stepping it up. Bigger tournament, bigger stakes. I think he's going to bring his game.
I'm also going to have to pick Mango here, but I give SVAT a pretty decent chance, like 30% or more at getting there.
I think it's going to be very interesting because SFAT overall, he looked very Mango Leffen-esque at CCC, where if you took out the names and you just saw Fox Falco playing, you might just assume that was like Mango or Leffen playing, but it was actually SFAT. So if SFAT, SFAT was kind of cold in teams earlier this week and kind of had a little bit of struggle, but every day is a new day. And this was the conversation we had over dinner with Hugo, is that there are some days where you just turn it on, and there are some days where you just don't. And on the bottom half, it's pretty interesting. I believe Mafia slot, he upset Axe, and Lucky was supposedly in that.
He was
too, but
yep.
He wasn't able to make it. But kudos to Mafia for overcoming 2 higher seed players.
He took his opportunity, made the most of it.
And so Mafia Hungrybox, I'm going to just be real here.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, Mafia. I think you can prove me wrong. You have less than a 1% chance of winning this.
I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah. Hungrybox always seems to get the easiest past the winners finals, in my opinion.
And it's going to get even easier with the number 1 seed at next major or 2.
But to be fair, Mango did catch a lucky break here. I mean, he doesn't have to run into Mewtwo King, which is the penalty of having a 2nd seed.
Yeah.
Is that you play another god, but Mewtwo King didn't make it this far.
1st and 2nd seed, big difference at these tournaments where there's 3 gods, right?
And we have to say that, both Shroomed and Kobel in winners semis can take games off of Hungrybox, and Shroom got really close at Evo, and Kobel, is familiar with Hungrybox, so I don't know if it's a free road. It's certainly not like a Leffen or Armada level difficulty in winners semis, but I would give them an outside shot at taking it.
I would say there's no such thing as free roads to winners finals anymore, even if there's only 2 or 3 guys, just because the 10 to 20s have stepped it up in relative skill these days. So Shroomed and Kobel could definitely, I mean, they're definitely not the favorites, but I could see them taking a game or even taking Hungrybox to game 5 pretty easily.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Hungrybox does have Crunch here, so he's going to be very well prepped for everything, and he's going to have time to give him the scouting report and the habits and tendencies, and that's been a huge boost for Hungrybox this year, who's won, I'd like to say 8 majors at this point.
Whatever the definition of a major is, he has won a lot of them.
Yeah. Or multi-god events, I guess is a good way to put it.
Right.
We're going to move on to losers. There's been a lot of interesting activity. I mean, Siren unfortunately eliminated 2 people in this desk, which is really sad. Oh, that's Fendrick Lamar.
He didn't eliminate Fendrick, but he eliminated these 2 to my left and right. And that's pretty interesting. Like, Siren, not a name I would have picked for top 24. Any quick thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Siren is one of those old school MDVA legends who's been top in the region for a long time and then got a little inactive in the past couple of years. Still always having strong team performances, though, with with Milkman.
And he doesn't travel much these days. He just kind of chills in
Yeah.
this region and pulls off an upset here or there, right?
He doesn't. Interestingly, his bracket had 3 MDVA people, and then Tafokins. He beat Aglet, Smash God, and myself.
So you think kind of a case of knowing matchups he's comfortable with, getting on kind of a train of momentum, and then finally just finishing off Tafo at the end?
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, even running into me, obviously, like, I've kind of risen up in the past couple of years, but I played Starman a lot back in the day, and the record is definitely in his favor.
Wow. Okay.
And I think when you take a break, the pressures of performing well aren't as prevalent. So, like, for Siren, it's like...
Yeah, the expectations aren't necessarily there.
Like, it's like,
bringing you
if I
down.
win, I win.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm just going to have fun. Like, I don't have to worry about the social commentary saying,
Yeah.
like, oh, like, if you lose, you suck. Like,
That's become a part of Melee Majors these days, is everybody has expectations, and it seems like most people are disappointed afterwards. It's just kind of a part of our culture right now.
Yeah, but Tafo, if there's one thing that we should feel bad about, is that we lost to a guy who lost to a Mewtwo.
Should have gone Mewtwo.
I
Where's that
should've gone
FD Mewtwo counterpick?
I should have gone Mewtwo, man.
You should have that in your back pocket. What are you doing?
I don't know, man. So, looking at this losers bracket, it's pretty interesting. I think, ECM and Siren were the 2 people we probably didn't expect to make it this far, but, that's really big props to them for, showing up and, taking wins, because to make it this far, you're going to have to, win some solid sets against good players. There's going to be a lot of interesting things right away. Drugfox versus West Balls for 17th is actually devastating for both ends.
I think the Ice Siren, Drugfox, West Balls quad definitely looks pretty brutal on paper. Might be slightly mitigated by the fact that I believe Mafia drops down to AC. So I actually think they have a doable road to top 8.
I think so, but it's going to be tough. It's like a really, really tough bracket. And I think the nature of the round ones are going to just be pretty matchup dependent. I mean, Shootout running into MacD is kind of unfortunate.
Do you think Chu has a chance at all?
I think Chu's really good, but I think a best of 5 skews the variance of wobbling, whereas a best of 3, wobbling has more impact.
Yeah.
And I think Chu's really smart, and I think he could steal games with, his creative neutral, but I just don't see it. I also think, if I were to make an upset prediction here, I think DJ is phenomenal against low and mid tiers, and he shows you why they're low and mid tier characters. And I would actually pick DJ over Amsa in a best of 5.
As long as he doesn't go Bowser, right?
If he doesn't go, I mean, let's hope that he doesn't pull a nonsense counter pick. We'll call it the Isaiah counter pick.
So if he just goes Fox, plays solid, leverages his matchup of low tiers, you think he has a great chance? You're actually picking DJ Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's beaten like top Ice Climber players like Wobbles. Like, any character where he can force the low tier to approach is usually a nightmare matchup for the low tier. It's going to be kind of hard to really pick out who's going to make it out into the final top 8, but what are some of your preliminary thoughts on who's going to make it to the last block?
The first thought I have is Axe does not have a very favorable matchup against any of the 3 people in his quad, character-wise, so I think it's going to be tough for him. He's got a big road to top 8. This could be one of those tournaments where you expect Axe to make top 8, but he doesn't get there. I think S2J and Mewtwo King is pretty rough. S2J's had a really, really good run the last few majors, but I think the road ends with M2K. I'm actually like pretty confident Ice, Drugfox, West Balls, one of those 3 is going to make a top 8, just because of the Mafia 9th place drop down.
Yeah. And that makes perfect, that's pretty fair. I don't know how winners funnels into losers, but I think Mewtwo, I actually kind of like the scenario for Mewtwo King. We kind of toted earlier that Mewtwo King doesn't do well in losers, but I think this is the type of match where it's like warm up into a slightly stronger warm up, into more warm up, into like kind of it feeds into a nice flow where he's going to get more and more comfortable. So I think Mewtwo King is actually going to do big things. Today's a new day. He didn't really do well in Brawl, got 9th, dropped out of Smash 4, but I think he's going to regain focus and actually make a large run today.
Okay, so the loser PewFat is going to drop down to the
loser
top
PewFat
quad.
drops down to the top.
The top quad where you see Z the next round there. And then I believe
The loser of Wizzy Mango drops
Yep.
down to the second one.
then it's Wizzy Mango. Loser drops down to the second one.
The loser of Copal Shroom drops down to the third one, and the loser of Mafia Hungry Box drops down to the bottom
Yep.
quadrant.
So in that case, I think Mewtwo King gets in. I think West Balls will most likely get in.
Who do you have coming out of that quad? Ice, Siren, Jug Fox, West Balls.
It's really tough. I mean, I'm going to eliminate Siren off the bat. Sorry.
Sure. Had to throw him in there. I mean,
But-
he's earned that.
I mean,
so
I
far.
think Drug Fox can beat West Balls. I think he fundamentally has a good style that plays against West Balls well. But I want to say, West Balls versus Fox, like you make small mistakes, I think he's just going to be way too punishing on them. And then I think if MacD beats Axe, then I think Wizzy makes it out of that quartile, which is
Yeah.
not unreasonable. I'm not an Axe hater. I love Axe.
I mean, even if Axe comes out of that, Wizzy's done it before, right?
A really long time ago.
It's a long time ago, but he has that win under his belt.
Yeah. But best of 5, you have FD, which is pretty much a loss.
It's all a loss
And,
for Falcon.
I've done calculations on it, but like if you have like a 90-10 or an 80-20 scenario on a stage,
rough.
it's just way too hard to overcome.
Excuses so bad.
And I think DJ and Zoo are most likely going to win out, and then I think whoever PewFat has to play is going to win that. And if AMSA manages to make it out, then I'm going to pick AMSA to beat PewFat, but I don't think he's going to make it out.
Yeah, I think AMSA is going to make it out. My prediction is AMSA is going to destroy DJ Nintendo.
Ooh.
This sounds like a side bet. You guys were pretty confident.
I'm going to side bet on this one too.
I'm willing to side bet on DJ.
All right, so we'll work it out after the pass.
All right, we'll work it out because
Terms are going to be private.
we can't condone gambling on stream.
Think of the kids. Going to be role models.
Well, okay, so it's going to be hard to predict the top 8, and I don't think that's worth it. But who's your pick for top 3, starting with Nintendo?
For top 3?
Or let's
Top 4.
top 4. Top 4.
Top 4, okay. All right, I can pick SFAT. I think SFAT's going to beat PPU, and then he's going to get to win whatever.
We're starting 4th right now, right?
Yeah, for
Okay.
4th. And 3rd, actually, this is tough. I gotta really look at the bracket, but I think that Mango and Hungry Box will definitely be top 2, for sure. I think SFAT will be 3rd or 4th, and for 4th, I'm gonna say West Balls.
Wow. I'm going to go with Wizzy in 4th, Mewtwo King in 3rd, Mango 2nd, Hungry Box 1st.
All right. So I think Mewtwo King would be projected to play West Balls in the bottom half. So I think Mewtwo King for sure gets a guaranteed top 4. Like SFAT, and them, and PPU, beat him. This year, I just don't really see that happening again. So I think Mewtwo King is at least top 3. I'm going to say I'm not really comfortable with picking SFAT at this event. I just haven't seen him play well. I'm going to go with Wizzy 4th, and I think Hungry Box is going to take it. So Mango 2nd, Hungry Box 1st. I'm going out of order here. Mewtwo King 3rd, and Wizzy 4th. So that's pretty much the show for now. Oh, okay. So we got Gimmer going to come
All
in.
right, Calvin, what's your crazy prediction?
I think we're going to get another Apex with AMSA at 5th.
He's biased.
Is that AMSA?
He wants to see VGBC, 5th place AMSA.
I mean, it's not like he owns VGBC, right? All
I
right.
heard he does. I don't know.
Maybe. Alrighty. So we're going to tune out. We have about 10 minutes until... Actually, should we just banter? We can banter. What do you say?
I don't know what Gimmer's saying back there. I just hear noises.
All right, we're going to close it out in 10 minutes. Melee Top 24 will start out on this stream, so get excited. We'll have a lot of great matches. I think we're running 2 streams, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're running 2 streams. VGBC. Well, really, it's 4 streams between the 2 games. We have VGBC, VGBC2, Tourney Locator, and Tourney Locator 2. So be sure to tune in starting in 10 minutes.
Super excited. I think SmashCon's been a really good event. Hope it ends really well.
All right. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.